The father swapped his daughter for his mistress's child, but my mother switched us back that same night. My father, to please his mistress, secretly swapped my mother's daughter with his mistress's daughter. He raised the mistress's daughter as the legitimate heir, pampered and honored. The mistress laughed behind my mother's back, calling her a rural village woman who spent her whole life weaving a wedding dress for someone else. Even my father thought my mother was stupid and easy to fool. But my mother was simply uneducated, not brainless. They didn't know that on the night I was born, a fire broke out in the rear courtyard, and my mother immediately switched us back. On his deathbed, my father couldn't understand how he had been defeated by a rural village woman like my mother. Hello everyone, welcome to Xiaomi's Story Hall. Thank you for watching and subscribing. The story officially begins now. On the day the betrothal gifts arrived from the Marquis of Yongning's mansion, a disheveled young woman ran up to the Song family's gate. She grabbed the steward's sleeve and shouted, "I am the true legitimate daughter of the Song family. I was switched at birth. Take me to see your mistress." The steward shook her off. "Do you think our mistress sees just anyone?" The woman nearly fell, regaining her balance. She stared at the boxes of betrothal gifts being carried into the Song mansion and murmured dazedly, "I am Miss Song. The one marrying into the Marquis' family should have been me." Just then, she saw me alight from a carriage. The Song servants bowed to me. She froze, then charged straight at me, screaming hysterically, "I am the true legitimate daughter of the Song family. You've taken my place all these years. Take me to see grandmother, she is my real mother. She will recognize me." Before she could finish, the steward and several servants dragged her away. Everyone said she was mad, speaking nonsense. But her last words before being dragged off lingered in my mind. "Impossible to shake." She had screamed at me, "Have you never wondered why your father dotes on you so much? It's because you are the daughter of the woman he truly loves." Everyone in the mansion knew my father kept a mistress outside. Though my parents appeared harmonious on the surface, their hearts had long since drifted apart. After giving birth to me, my mother's postpartum bleeding wouldn't stop, and they never shared a bed again. My father was cold toward my mother, and equally cold toward my brother, who resembled her. He ignored his eldest son entirely, yet he doted on me. Whatever fine things entered the mansion were sent to my courtyard. He spent lavishly on tutors to educate me. By the time I reached adulthood, I was a renowned scholar in the capital. He always boasted of having a talented and beautiful daughter. Later, the wife of the Marquis of Yongning met me at a palace banquet, took a liking to me, and petitioned the emperor to betroth me to her eldest son, Xieze. My father was only a fifth-rank official. Everyone said I was fortunate, that this marriage was the Song family's social ascent. My father's drastically different treatment of me and my brother had always struck me as strange. After the woman was dragged away, I had my personal maid, Xiaohong, follow her. She tracked the woman to a courtyard in the western part of the city. I knew that elegant little courtyard was where my father kept his mistress. Xiaohong bribed the gatekeeper and learned the woman's identity. Her name was Lu Xiaonger, daughter of the mistress, Madame Lu. But Madame Lu had never treated her well. When my father wasn't visiting, Lu Xiaonger lived worse than a servant. As Xiaohong was leaving, she happened to see Madame Lu. She was indeed beautiful, especially the mole beneath her eye, which added to her charm. Hearing Xiaohong's report, I suddenly remembered the day before, when I had met a beautiful woman at the fabric shop. She had enthusiastically helped me choose material for a dress, saying her daughter was my age. She had looked at me with such pity and affection. I recalled that she too had a mole beneath her eye. She was my father's mistress. Could everything that woman had said today be true? Could I truly be the daughter of that mistress? Had my mother raised me with such love, only to have raised her enemy's child? My heart sank. My whole body trembled uncontrollably. The teacup in my hand shattered on the floor. I collapsed onto my bed, sobbing. When my mother returned from her trip to the temple to pray, she came straight to my room. She sat on the edge of my bed, patted my back gently, and asked softly, "Who upset our Yunqian? Tell mother. Mother will make it right." I was crying so hard I couldn't speak. My mother used her silk handkerchief to wipe the tears from my cheeks. Just then, my brother's voice came from the yard. "Song Yunqian, I brought back your favorite milk custard from the stables." Before he could finish, he saw our mother walk out of my room. She frowned and asked, "Did you steal your sister's things again?" My brother sensed trouble, quickly set the custard on the ground, and ran out of the yard. I didn't steal anything. That was years ago. He shouted over his shoulder. My mother scoffed. If you didn't do anything wrong, why are you running? I wiped my tears and called my mother back into the room. Mother, don't blame brother. It's me. I don't want to marry into the Marquis of Yongning's family. My mother looked concerned. Why? I've heard Xieze is handsome and of good character, a rare young man. I shook my head. I don't want to marry at all. I want to go to Miaoyin Nunnery and pray for you and brother day and night. I only want mother to be at peace. Child, what has possessed you? Why would you want to become a nun? My mother looked at Xiaohong, who was avoiding her eyes. You're with your mistress every day. What has happened to her? Xiaohong's face went pale. She fell to her knees in panic. Young mistress has learned of her true origins. I knelt before my mother and said, word by word, today, a girl came to the Song family gate and claimed she is your daughter. She said she is the daughter of father's mistress, Madame Lu. For some reason, we were switched at birth. Father and Madame Lu must both know. They deliberately conspired against you. Mother, I will go to the nunnery and become a nun. I will no longer occupy the position of the Song family's legitimate eldest daughter. I will not hurt you alongside them. My mother stared at me for a long moment, taking in my reddened eyes. Then she laughed softly. Is this what made you cry so bitterly? At least all my love for you wasn't wasted. I was taken aback by her calm reaction. Mother, aren't you sad that I'm not your biological daughter? She reached out and wiped the corner of my eye. Silly child. That night, after they swapped you, I immediately swapped you back. You may not look like me as much as your brother does, but I know you are my daughter. And it's a good thing you don't look like me, otherwise, finding you a good husband would be difficult. I was stunned. Swapped back. Nothing had changed. I was still my mother's true daughter. Seeing me speechless, my mother stood and took a copper hairpin from Xiaohong's hair. She took my hand. I flinched. There's no need for blood tests. Mother, whatever you say, I believe you. My mother smiled and pressed the tip of the hairpin against the back of my hand. After a moment, she pressed the same hairpin into her own palm. Soon, a red rash appeared on my hand. She showed me her palm. The same rash had appeared there too. I break out in rashes when I touch anything except gold or silver. She said, when I lived in the village, everyone laughed at me, a mere lotus digger with such delicate skin. But you were raised delicately, and all your jewelry has been gold or silver. So you never discovered you inherited this from me. Back then, Lu Yuyao couldn't enter the Song family as a wife, so she had your father swap you with her daughter. She wanted her daughter to take your place as the legitimate eldest daughter. Your father was so cruel, willing to do such a vile thing just to please her. After my father passed the imperial examinations and became a scholar official, my mother followed him from their rural village to the capital, where even the dust carried a whiff of nobility. Everyone said she was merely a rural woman, dependent on my father to survive. But that day, for the first time, I saw hatred in her eyes. My mother had once been a lotus digger in Yangzhou. She had worked in the muddy ponds, digging lotus roots, to support my father through his studies. After he passed the exams and became an official, he promised to take her to the capital for a good life. But the capital's splendor soon dazzled my father, and his humble wife no longer pleased his eye. My mother's skin was dark from years of outdoor labor, far less fair than the capital's ladies. Her hands were covered in scars and frostbite wounds from digging lotus roots in winter. My father watched her bustling about the mansion with distaste. I brought you to the capital to be the mistress of this household, not a servant, he said. But before coming to the capital, he had said the same thing, only then, he had meant it. Now, he left half the sentence unsaid. Even the newly purchased servants looked more like the mistress than my mother did. My mother said nothing. Her lashes veiled her disappointment. She began learning how to be a mistress of the house. She studied reading and writing alongside my brother. She started wearing the clothes and jewelry my father had given her, which she had always been too frugal to use. She learned to dress like the capital's noble ladies. Slowly, she began to look less like a rural woman. But my father's eyes no longer held her. He met Lu Yuyao at a banquet, a concubine's daughter of the Minister of War. Young and beautiful, she was at the peak of her charm. A concubine's daughter like her would typically be sent as a concubine to a powerful family. paving the way for her household. But she refused to live under another's thumb. So she set her sights on my father. My father was a successful scholar official with a bright future. He had only an unpolished wife at home, inferior in every way to a proper lady from the capital. Having him divorce his wife and marry her seemed easy. Lu Yuyao bewitched my father. He thought more than once of sending my mother and brother back to their hometown in Yangzhou. Within 6 months of arriving in the capital, my father's heart had changed. He was no longer my mother's support. A single word from him could end her. The father who had once cherished her sacrifices and promised to give her a good life now looked at her with nothing but disdain. My mother dared not cry at home, for the servants would laugh at her. She went to the lake, among the blooming lotuses. She thought of home, but she did not want to return. She sat by the shore and stared at a beautiful painted pleasure boat she had never seen before. But she soon noticed something wrong. The boat was rocking unnaturally. Having lived by the lake most of her life, my mother realized the seemingly calm surface hid dangerous undercurrents. She shouted from the shore, but those on the boat could not hear her. The boat nearly capsized. A woman fell into the water. My mother dove in without hesitation and swam toward her. The woman was being pulled under by the fierce current. Several others tried to catch her but failed. But my mother, raised by the lake, was an excellent swimmer. She fought the waves and pulled the woman to shore. She returned home drenched and disheveled. My father saw her wet clothes and smashed a teacup at her feet. Do you think you're still in the Yangzhou countryside? Walking through the streets looking like this, where is my dignity? He was too angry to hear that she had jumped into the lake to save someone. When she told him again, he said, even if you saved someone, you must maintain decorum. He flicked his sleeve, his tone softening slightly. Never mind. You wouldn't understand. You shouldn't stay in the capital. Go home. My mother lowered her gaze. She no longer cried as she once had. Her tears had already dried by the lake. She looked up and asked quietly, I can go home. But there are no good teachers in our hometown. Can Huaner stay in the capital to study? A flicker of reluctance crossed my father's eyes, but only for a moment. He had promised Lu Yuyao to send both mother and son away. I've seen Huaner's schoolwork. He's not cut out for studying. I don't have time to look after him. Take him with you. After his harsh words, he added falsely, I'm still only a minor official now. Once I'm established in the capital, I'll bring you both back. By then, Huaner will be older, and I'll find him a noble wife here. My mother was uneducated, but she was not stupid. When my father complained that his undergarments felt rough, she knew he had another woman. She knew that woman was nothing like her. She was 100 times more precious in my father's eyes. My mother had once loved to dress well, but all her hard-earned money had gone to support my father's studies. He had promised to buy her the most beautiful clothes and give her a good life once he became an official, but he had long forgotten those promises. Now, he only hoped she would not stand in the way of his good life. A draft blew through the hall. My mother shivered and hugged her arms, looking at me with reddened eyes. I am too crude. I have shamed your father. Tomorrow, I will pack and take Huaner back to our hometown. I am just a village woman. I don't deserve your father. He has given me a life with enough to eat and drink. What more could I want? I won't come to the capital again. I won't hinder his future. But don't forget what you said today, that you will bring Huaner back someday. My father agreed, a flicker of reluctance crossing his face. Watching her retreating figure, her thin and weary back, he felt a pang of guilt. But my mother's words were not meant for him. The woman she had saved that day was Meng Jinxi, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister. Afraid my father would scold her, my mother had rushed home without changing her wet clothes. The servant who had accompanied Miss Meng back followed my mother to ensure her safety. The words my mother had spoken at the gate were meant for that servant. My mother could not forget the pity in Meng Jinxi's eyes when she learned my mother was an official's wife and saw her cracked hands. The gratitude and pity of the Prime Minister's daughter were my mother's only lifeline. The next morning, before my mother could leave, gifts arrived from the Prime Minister's mansion. Madame Meng herself came to thank my mother for saving her daughter. 2 heavy chests of gold and jewels were carried into the yard. The golden glow was dazzling. My mother had never seen such a sight. She dared not accept them. Madame Meng took her hand. You saved my daughter, whom I gave birth to when I was nearly 40. You saved my life as well. This is nothing. She immediately extended an invitation. Next month, After Miss Meng recovered, the Song family was invited to the Prime Minister's mansion for a gathering. My mother shook her head. I'm about to take my son back to Yongzhou. Before she could finish, my father cut in. We can discuss that after the gathering. You're not going to turn down an invitation from the Prime Minister's mansion. His voice was low, reproachful. My mother looked innocent. Did I say something wrong again? Madame Meng watched this exchange and found my mother deeply pitiable. She was a rural woman who had worked hard to support her husband through the examinations, only to weave a wedding dress for another woman. My father was ashamed of her, never taking her out. She was a wife destined to be cast aside. Madame Meng called my mother over to inspect the gifts and whispered, "These accessories suit you. You should wear them more often." My mother smiled wryly. My husband says I can't even tell different fabrics apart. Such fine things should be saved for my daughter and future daughter-in-law. Madame Meng asked, "Do you know how to embroider?" My mother shook her head. I made a living digging lotus roots. My hands are always injured. I can't do such fine work. Madame Meng understood immediately. The exquisitely embroidered sachet at my father's waist had not been made by my mother. She took a deep breath and said, "Come to my mansion tomorrow. I'll teach you how to recognize fabrics and how to dress." My mother hesitated. "But how can I? My husband says I look rustic no matter what I do." Madame Meng patted her hand. "I'm not teaching you to please your husband. You need to learn to live like the capital's noble ladies so you can stay here and secure a good future for your children." Those words resonated with my mother's own thoughts. From then on, my mother often visited the Prime Minister's mansion to learn from Madame Meng how to be a proper mistress. She was intelligent, she just hadn't had the opportunity to study like my father. My father had originally hoped to use her connection to the Prime Minister for his own advancement. But instead, my mother grew closer to the Prime Minister's family herself. Her once rough skin was softened by fine creams. Her dress and appearance became indistinguishable from the capital's noble women. Madame Meng brought her to various banquets, and with Madame Meng's protection, no one dared mock my mother's rural origins. Instead, they praised her for supporting my father through his studies. Soon, all the nobles in the capital knew of my mother, the unpolished wife, behind my father. Only then did my father realize that if he sent her back to Yongzhou now, he would be labeled as a man who abandoned his devoted wife. To make matters worse, Lu Yuyao was pregnant. For the sake of his career, my father persuaded her to enter the household as a concubine, her belly growing. She had no choice but to agree. Just then, my mother brought a box of poisonous face powder to Madame Meng. Trembling, "Madam, I agreed to let the pregnant Lu enter the household. Then she sent me this box of poisoned powder. The doctor said if I used it, I would die of poisoning within 2 months. Then my husband could legitimately make her the first wife." It was the first lie my mother had ever told. She had discovered she was 2 months pregnant before she had learned of my father's affair. She could not put her son and unborn child in danger. She had to keep Lu Yuyao out of the Song mansion at all costs. Not long after my mother left the Prime Minister's mansion, rumors spread through the capital. The concubine's daughter of Minister Lu was pregnant and had been kept as a mistress outside of marriage. Though she was from a respectable family, she had shamelessly seduced a man and was eventually driven out of the Lu household. The story became gossip for the capital's wealthy. Around this time, my father became a protege of the Prime Minister. His career soared. To protect his reputation and future, he dared not take Lu Yuyao in as a concubine. Instead, he set her up in a separate courtyard outside the mansion. Following Madame Meng's advice, my mother planted her own people among the servants my father bought for Lu Yuyao. When Lu learned my mother was also pregnant, she smashed her new porcelain vases in fury. "Why should that lowborn woman's child be legitimate while mine is a bastard? She's so lucky, a peasant who managed to cling to the Prime Minister's family. Let's see how long her luck lasts." Late one night, when my father visited her courtyard, Lu Yuyao tearfully begged him to swap their children. "You promised to marry me as your wife. Now that peasant woman sits in the mistress's seat. I trusted your words and gave you my innocence, and this is my reward. You've already ruined me. Don't let our child be born a bastard too. He deserves to be legitimate." My father, overcome with pity and guilt, agreed. "I'm not heartless," Lu said, clinging to him. "I will treat her child well and raise it properly." To assuage his guilt, my father was willing to pay any price, even if it meant betraying my mother, who had supported him, and me, still in her womb. I was swapped before I was even born. My mother continued, stroking my hair. Lu Yuyao and I gave birth on the same day. She had a daughter in the morning. I had you at night. Your father bribed the midwife and swapped Lu's daughter for you. But that day, someone knocked over a candle in the servants' quarters, and a fire broke out. I had Lanchio swap you back in the chaos. When you were born, I left a thumbprint on your arm. For a long time, I was so afraid you would be swapped again that I kept touching your hand with copper objects. Your father thought you had a rash. My mother smiled bitterly. He always prided himself on being a gentleman of integrity. I never imagined he would do something so vile for that mistress. I lay across my mother's lap, looking up at her with reddened eyes. I wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. She pinched my cheek and smiled. Your father's heart changed. But that didn't mean my life had to end. I still have you and your brother. As for your father, he's nothing but a stepping stone beneath our feet. My brother once said my mother cried often when she was pregnant with me. But later, after my father was recommended by the Prime Minister to a position in the central government and the Song mansion grew larger, my mother had no time for tears. She learned many things from Madame Meng and began managing the Song household with precision. When a new emperor ascended the throne, Meng Jinxi became the empress. Everyone in the palace knew that my mother had saved the empress's life. No one looked down on her rural origins anymore. She became a frequent guest at the capital's finest banquets. Her story, of digging lotus roots to support my father through his studies, even reached the emperor's ears. He praised my father for having married such a virtuous wife. Faced with this unpolished wife, my father no longer dared to act arrogantly. His career depended on my mother's relationship with the Prime Minister's family. He had once despised her. Now he had to respect her. Years of suppression made him increasingly resentful. The only thing that kept him going was the knowledge that he had swapped the children. He believed my mother's good fortune would not last. One night, after returning from a banquet, my father heard from the steward about Lu Xianger causing a scene at the Song Gate. He came to my mother's room, a rare occurrence. She was reviewing the account books by lamplight. I was asleep on the couch, with Xiaolon fanning me. "What's wrong with Yunqian?" he asked. She cried herself to sleep. My mother replied without looking up. "She's about to be married, yet still so childish. Was she upset by that girl's ravings today?" He probed. "I heard about that girl when I returned. She claimed to be your daughter. Surely you don't have a secret illegitimate daughter, do you?" My mother set down her brush and suddenly looked thoughtful. "Oh, I almost forgot. Lu Yuyao supposedly gave you a daughter too, around Yunqian's age." My father's breathing quickened. He quickly changed the subject. "Lu is pregnant again. The child is mine. She's struggling alone out there. I want to bring her into the mansion." My mother paused, then smiled. "That's wonderful news. I do hope being a concubine won't be too humiliating for her." Her expression showed no displeasure, no hint of calculation. My father sat beside her and sighed. The rumors from back then have finally died down. She has suffered all these years. He took my mother's hand, his expression earnest. "But she will only ever be a concubine. You will always be the mistress of the Song mansion." At this, I couldn't help but open my eyes, ready to speak for my mother. But she silenced me with a look. "Don't worry, my husband. I will treat her well." After he left, I sat up immediately. "Mother, why did you agree to let that woman into the mansion?" My mother walked over to the couch and sat down, smiling. "How many officials in the capital don't have concubines? If I forbade her from entering, I would be labeled jealous. Besides, they didn't succeed in their scheme against me." Her gaze turned cold, her gentle expression gone. "Before you marry, this Song mansion needs to be cleansed." She decided that Lu Yuyao would enter only after my wedding. My father, eager for everything to be settled once I married into the Marquis of Yongming's household, agreed. The Song mansion was as calm as the lull before a storm. My mother managed the inner household and meticulously prepared my dowry. Every month on the 15th day, she would go to the temple on the hill to pray for Madame Meng's soul. Madame Meng had often thanked my mother for saving her daughter's life, but my mother knew that it was Madame Meng who had given her a way to survive. Lu Xianger learned of my mother's monthly temple visits and waited for her there. As my mother emerged from the temple, Lu Xianger grabbed her sleeve. crying. She told my mother everything she had overheard Lu Yuyao say about the child swap. My mother noticed the bruises under Lu Xianger's sleeves. She found it bitterly ironic that Lu Yuyao had once promised to treat her child well. Looking up, my mother put on an expression of naive innocence. My husband is a gentleman. He would never do such a thing. You must be mistaken. Lu Xianger sobbed. I'm not mistaken. My mother beats and scolds me. She's not my real mother. My mother pitied her. She took a few silver ingots from her purse and pressed them into Lu Xianger's hands. Some mothers are indeed cruel. But you're grown now. You can make your own life. Lu Xianger stared at her in disbelief. Your husband conspired with his mistress to deceive you. I've told you the truth, and you won't believe me. My mother shook her head. My husband would never lie to me. Lu Xianger laughed bitterly. I thought I was pitiful. But you are even more so. The moment my mother left, servants from Lu Yuyao's courtyard arrived. The leading matron, having overheard my mother's words, laughed loudly. So what if you told her? She's just a stupid peasant woman. How could she possibly understand? As she laughed, a flying stone struck her leg. She fell, screaming. The servants behind her also fell to the ground. Lu Xianger took the chance to escape into the woods. When the matron returned to report her failure, Lu Yuyao laughed. The peasant woman really said that. She trusts her husband that much. The matron nodded. Country women are like that. They see their husbands as their whole world. Unless her husband tells her himself, she won't believe it. Lu Yuyao's expression grew even more contemptuous. If she hadn't been lucky enough to save the empress, she never could have become the Song family's mistress. Her son is useless. As for the daughter she raised, a rural village woman, spending her whole life weaving a wedding dress for someone else. Once I give birth to a son, it will be time for her to give up the mistress's seat. In those days, my father often visited Lu Yuyao, not only because of her pregnancy but also to meet with her father. Lu Yuyao's older half-sister had become a favored consort in the palace. Now pregnant and honored as noble consort Lu, her father had risen in rank to become the Minister of War. But the Lu family's ambitions did not stop there. They awaited the birth of the consort's son, hoping to seize power, eager to build his own faction. They naturally sought to recruit my father. Though my father had followed the prime minister for years, he remained only a fifth-rank official. He had long been dissatisfied and quickly switched his allegiance. My mother could not interfere in court politics. She focused on me and my brother. She prepared many things for him and personally sent him off to join the army. Huayr isn't cut out for studying, she told my father. Let him train on the battlefield. He might earn his own merit. My father only reminded her, tell him not to desert on the battlefield and shame me. He showed no concern for my brother's safety. After all, he expected to have a new son soon. If not for his belief that I was Lu Yuyao's daughter, he would have been just as cold to me. Standing outside the door, I felt my heart grow cold. The next day, my mother and I saw my brother out of the city. She tucked a peace charm from the temple into his chest. As we parted, my usually carefree brother called out to me, his expression serious. Listen to mother. Everything she has done for us. I nodded. Don't worry, brother. I will listen to mother, and I will protect her. After he left, my mother busied herself with my dowry. Rumors had been circulating that Xieze, the eldest son of the Marquis of Yongning, had a mistress who had just given birth to twins. I bribed my mother's trusted servants to keep the news from her. In the past, I would have run crying to her, but now, I found such things less important. What mattered was that Lu Yuyao would soon enter the mansion. With her pregnancy and the Lu family's rising status, she would surely make trouble for my mother. And I would marry into the Marquis of Yongning's family, become a mistress of that household, and be my mother's support. On my wedding day, my husband left for the border. I returned to the Song mansion alone. I was drinking tea in my mother's courtyard when a stewardess came to report, Madam, we prepared the best guest courtyard for Concubine Lu, but she complains that the furnishings are outdated and the food is unpalatable. She's making trouble because she's pregnant. My mother seemed unbothered. What does she want now? She wants bird's nest soup, not the regular kind, but the more expensive red bird's nest. Give her whatever she wants, my mother said. She turned to me and brushed a strand of hair from my face. Thank goodness you're married. This Song household is unbearably dull. I took her hand. Mother, Don't worry. I will support you. She smiled. Do you know what I'm going to do? I shook my head. No. But whatever it is, I will follow you. She smiled and said no more. I hadn't been in her courtyard long when a servant came to say my father wished to see me after court. He had recently been promoted to 4th rank, thanks to Minister Lu's patronage. As I approached his study, Lu Yuyao arrived as well. Her beautiful almond-shaped eyes curved in a smile. Have you ever wondered why you're so beautiful? Surely it's not because of your mother's birth. I replied coldly. My mother was beautiful before she married, but she aged from years of hard work supporting our family. Without her, the Song family wouldn't be where it is today. I said this for my father's ears. He stood there listening, but his expression did not change. His eyes were fixed on Lu Yuyao, who was dabbing her tears with a handkerchief. My father looked at me. Yuyao is your real mother. We hid this from you all these years for your own good. What do you mean, father? I asked, though I already knew. Everything Lu Xiang'er said was true. You and her daughter were swapped. That's how you grew up as the legitimate daughter of the Song family. I laughed coldly. I wasn't asking about that. I was asking how you could do something so vile and still look so self-righteous. My father and Lu Yuyao both froze. She looked at him and sobbed. Now my own daughter won't even be close to me, and I am her real mother. Just then, my mother stepped out from behind a rockery in the garden. Lu Yuyao's pupils contracted. Then she sneered. So you heard everything. I heard everything. My mother lowered her gaze, her lashes hiding her emotions. That's why you were content to stay a mistress all these years. Lu Yuyao wiped her tears and smiled. So what if you clung to the Prime Minister's family and became the mistress? You've just been raising my daughter all these years. Everything you've worked for will be mine. My father showed no guilt. He stood on the steps, looking down at my mother. The Emperor and Empress are estranged now. I have cut ties with the Prime Minister. You are not to have any further contact with his mansion. He studied my mother's expression but saw no panic. She slowly raised her eyes to meet his and smiled. I anticipated this. Years ago, when the Prime Minister wanted to promote you, I had Madame Meng advise him against it. A man who would abandon his devoted wife cannot be trusted with important positions. Otherwise, with my connection to the Prime Minister's family and your talents, how could you still be only a 5th rank official after all these years? My father's face drained of color. His voice trembled. You pretended to be virtuous all these years. It was you. How could it be you? In your eyes, it wasn't virtue, it was stupidity. My mother scoffed. When you couldn't give Lu Yuyao a proper status, you decided to swap the children and have me raise her daughter. Absurd. How long have you known? He whispered. My mother smiled. Before Yunqian was born, Madame Meng taught me how to bribe servants and plant my own people among those you bought for Lu Yuyao. Don't you think it was a coincidence that a fire broke out in the servants' quarters just as you swapped the children, sending everyone rushing to put it out? I walked to my mother's side and looked at my father, swaying on the steps. I have always been mother's daughter. Father, all your doting over the years was misplaced. At that, Lu Yuyao's eyes rolled back, and she fainted. My father rushed to catch her, stumbled, and fell down the steps. It was quite a sight. He picked himself up, dirty and disheveled, and pointed at my mother. Guards, throw this venomous woman into the woodshed. But no one moved. His 2 trusted servants were pinned to the ground by the household guards. Only then did he realize that my mother had long since replaced all the servants with her own people. She had always deferred to him, and he had thought her uneducated and stupid. He had never taken her seriously, never guarded against her. He stared at her as if seeing a stranger. My mother laughed. I've been too kind to you. I was going to let you and Lu Yuyao stay in the study. Take them both to the woodshed, she ordered. 2 guards seized my father's arms. He struggled, but my mother whispered something in his ear. His soul seemed to leave his body. His legs went weak, and he was dragged away. I stared at my mother, stunned to see her shed her mask of weakness and become so decisive. But her gaze toward me was still loving. You've been out too long. Return to the Marquis's mansion, or your mother-in-law will think poorly of you. I knew my mother had her own plans. I threw myself into her arms, my eyes red. Mother, what are you planning? I'm grown now. I can help you. She stroked my face but pushed me away. Live your own life. Go. The next day, my father did not attend court. Instead, He sent a letter to the palace, a confession that Minister Liu had been colluding with foreign enemies and raising private troops outside the city. I was shocked. Minister Liu's crimes were severe, and my father, a coward who valued his life above all, would never confess voluntarily. Then I remembered something. When I was young, my mother had once asked my father for a copy of his calligraphy, saying she wanted my brother to practice by copying it. Over the years, my brother's handwriting had not improved, but the calligraphy copy in my mother's room had become worn from constant use. The confession letter was written by my mother. I heard the emperor flew into a rage upon reading the letter. He ordered the Liu and Song household seized and their members exiled, but the empress and her family pleaded for the Song family, invoking my mother's life-saving favor. Out of consideration for the prime minister, the emperor punished only my father. When the Song mansion was sealed and confiscated, and my father was imprisoned, I was the only one who went to see him. He looked 10 years older in just a few days. He stared blankly at a corner of the cell, muttering, "When did she learn to write?" I took out the food and wine I had brought, set out the bowls and chopsticks, and said quietly, "Brother said that when you still lived in a thatched hut, you used to teach mother to read in your spare time." He closed his eyes. "That was so long ago. I forgot." "You didn't forget. You just stopped seeing her after you came to the capital. You didn't care about her, so you never noticed when she learned to write." I handed him a cup of wine. "You also didn't know that she managed the Song household meticulously, reviewing the accounts every month without a single mistake. How could she not know how to write?" My father drank the wine and looked at me. "I was married to Lianqin for 24 years. She never had such deep schemes. Someone else must have taught her. She never swapped the children back. She's lying to drive a wedge between us. Don't believe her." He was rambling. One moment he said my mother had no schemes. The next, he accused her of scheming against him. Suddenly, something seemed to dawn on him. His clouded eyes fixed on me, his voice trembling. "It's all a lie. Yu Yao is pregnant. You have to save her. Save your real brother." I shook my head. Concubine Liu was taken away last night by palace guards. Word from the palace is that her older sister, noble consort Liu, has been confined. The Liu family is finished. The light in my father's eyes faded. "I want to see your mother. Tell her to come. She saved the empress's life. If she pleads for me, she can save me. She doesn't want to see you." My voice trembled slightly. "She said you dying alone is better than the whole family dying together." He laughed bitterly, his eyes red. 24 years of marriage, and I never truly knew her. That was the last time I saw my father. Soon after, word spread that noble consort Liu had died suddenly. I had thought that even if the Liu family fell, the consort, carrying the emperor's child, might have survived. The day my husband returned victorious from the border, I saw Liu Xiong'er disguised as a servant trying to leave the city. Soldiers were approaching. I had Xiaohong scold her loudly, pretending she was my maid who had been delayed running an errand. The soldiers, seeing she was a servant of the Marquis of Yongning's household, did not stop her. I walked over to Liu Xiong'er. "How did you survive?" She looked up at me. "Your mother said if I agreed to expose my mother, she would find a way for me to live." "Your mother?" I asked, confused. She smiled bitterly. "I really envy you. You have a mother who plans everything for you. I am no different from a stray dog. You've had a hard life too, but your mother told me that if my mother hadn't treated me so badly, I wouldn't have been willing to expose her to save myself." Her words reminded me of something my mother had once said. "If your father hadn't been so cruel to me, I wouldn't have." I gave Liu Xiong'er some banknotes and watched her leave the capital. Before she left, she told me that my mother had made her expose Liu Yuyao's crime, smuggling forbidden medicines into the palace to help noble consort Liu gain favor. Liu Yuyao had provided 2 medicines. One was an aphrodisiac. The other, my mother discovered only later. For the sake of my brother and me, my mother had long been putting infertility drugs in my father's food. Yet years later, Liu Yuyao had become pregnant. My father, overjoyed, had invited several respected physicians to attend to her, and they had all confirmed her pregnancy. My mother had her people watch Liu Yuyao's courtyard and confirmed she had not taken another lover. Coincidentally, noble consort Liu had also become pregnant soon after. By then, no royal child had been born in 5 years. My mother was certain her medicine was effective. If Lu Yuyao was pregnant, something was wrong. Before locking my father and Lu Yuyao in the woodshed, my mother told him he could no longer have children. In the shed, he had grabbed Lu Yuyao by the throat and forced the truth from her. She had obtained a formula from the black market that could mimic a pregnancy pulse. She had planned to suffer a miscarriage after entering the Song mansion and frame my mother, toppling her from her position as mistress. Noble consort Lu had likely planned to do the same to the empress. My mother had Lu Xiong'er expose Lu Yuyao, helping the empress bring down the noble consort. At my father's grave, my mother told me she had a physician examine the aphrodisiac Lu Yuyao had given my father. The physician said it contained 2 potent ingredients that severely weakened the body. Even if my father hadn't been executed, he probably wouldn't have lived 2 more years. No wonder the emperor had suddenly died of a sudden illness. With the support of the ministers, the second prince became the new emperor. Everyone praised the empress's foresight, but few knew of the village woman's role in it. After victories on the border, my brother made a name for himself in the army. He returned to the capital, was granted a title, and married a noble lady. Soon after, my mother received an honorary title as well. After my father's death, the Song family did not fall, it flourished. One day, when Xieze accompanied me home, my brother pulled me aside. "Is that Xieze still entangled with his mistress?" he whispered. "If life in the Marquis's mansion is difficult, come home. Your brother will take care of you." I snorted. "With mother here, I'm not afraid of anything." My brother sighed. "You don't have to tolerate him for the sake of the child you're carrying." Before I could respond, Xieze appeared behind us, laughing coldly. "When did I ever have a mistress? Brother-in-law, is this why you punched me on the road back to the capital?" I jumped, startled. Xieze quickly steadied me. I shot him a reproachful look. "Why are you sneaking up on me? I'm pregnant. What if you scared me into something?" "My fault. All my fault," he murmured. "But even if I'm beaten and wrongly accused, I shouldn't have asked." I turned to my brother. "You really hit him. How could you? He's a better fighter than you." "He didn't land it," my brother said, rolling his eyes. "We share the same last name. Why are you siding with him?" I laughed and quickly explained. "Brother, you don't understand. The Xieze who kept a mistress and fathered twins was the second son of Zhang Yiba. They just happened to share the same name. That's why the rumor got misattributed." Xieze frowned. "You heard that rumor and still married me." I lowered my gaze to hide my slight panic. "Because mother said you are a good man. I trust her." In the height of summer, the lotus flowers bloomed brilliantly among the green leaves. When my mother visited the palace, she mentioned to the Empress Dowager that the lotuses in her garden had bloomed. That day, the Empress Dowager secretly slipped out of the palace and sat with my mother in the pavilion, playing chess and admiring the flowers. The Empress Dowager had taught my mother to play chess, so my mother naturally lost several games in a row. Just as she was getting frustrated, she looked up at her 2 children in the distance and suddenly smiled. The Empress Dowager looked at her. "Why are you smiling?" My mother beamed. "There's a saying in my husband's hometown. A man's 3 greatest joys in middle age are promotion, wealth, and his wife's death. Well, your husband was promoted and became wealthy, and now he's a widow. I suppose you're happy." My mother smiled. "Indeed. What do you think of this story? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your voice."